Hey there guys, so it looks like it's official. Vasyl Lomachenko is going to be fighting a unification fight against Jose Pedraza. This is going to be for the WBA and WBO title, which is held by Pedraza. And Lomachenko, of course, being the WBA champion. Now, this fight makes perfect sense to me. It's the fight we all expected. It's the fight that I was hoping Lomachenko would take for his comeback fight because I just think it makes perfect sense. I just think it's the fight. If I was to select any opponent for Lomachenko to be the perfect opponent for him to come back and fight, I'd pick this guy. Everything just adds up perfectly. Now, Jose Pedraza, how good is he as a fighter, and what kind of challenge could he present to Lomachenko? I gotta be honest, guys. Jose Pedraza, when you look at his resume, I actually do think his resume is a little bit underrated. Now, I think that people's perceptions of him as a fighter were heavily coloured and distorted by his shocking defeat against Gervonta Davis, where he basically got taken apart and blown away in 6 rounds in just horrible fashion. Gervonta Davis basically went in there and blasted him out, took him apart, and was just too young, too strong, too fast, too powerful, and too ambitious. And I think based on that fight, a lot of people kind of wrote Pedraza off. But if you look into Pedraza's resume and you look at some of his fights, he does have some very noteworthy victories. For example, back in the day, he defeated Andrei Klimov, who at the time was considered a prospect, a really good prospect. I mean, Klimov was able to defeat John Molina Jr., for example. He also gave Terence Crawford a very difficult fight. So Klimov, to me, was one of these guys. He was a very difficult guy to beat and a difficult guy to look good against. And Pedraza was able to defeat him, and he also destroyed Tevin Farmer, who nowadays is seen as a world class fighter. A lot of people rate Tevin Farmer very highly. He's seen as sort of a rising star in the sport, and I know that was back when Farmer was inexperienced. I think both guys were very inexperienced when that fight happened, but you have to take into consideration Pedraza absolutely schooled and destroyed Tevin Farmer and stopped him. So that was quite an impressive win. He also was able to pick up the IBF title, and in his last fight, he lost the IBF title previously, as I mentioned, but in his last fight, he was able to defeat the veteran Raymond Beltran and was able to win his WBO title in a very competitive fight, but what I thought was a clear victory. So yeah, it was an impressive performance in his last fight. I think he did show some vulnerabilities. Again, the Gervonta Davis fight does come to mind whenever I think of him. Clearly he's a guy who has ability, but he can be broken down. If you can get inside and you can unsettle him, work him to the body and rough him up. Pedraza is certainly a guy who can be unsettled and can be stopped. And we've seen Lomachenko get inside and just punk fighters. We've seen him against better fighters than Pedraza, people like Guillermo Rigondeaux and Nicholas Walters, for example. We've seen Lomachenko get inside on these guys and break their hearts and stop them and force these guys to submit. But I think what adds an interesting dynamic to this one is Lomachenko's layoff, because he's been out of the ring for a while, since April, and Lomachenko's shoulder injury. Because that Linares fight, Lomachenko had to work really hard for that fight. He had to fight through injuries. He was knocked down, and yeah, the shoulder injury, man. He's undergone surgery, and we don't know how well that shoulder has healed. So I think this is going to be an interesting challenge. It's going to be very interesting to see if Lomachenko can. I believe it's in his right shoulder, and I think Lomachenko is an inverted southpaw, so it'll be interesting to see if Lomachenko can throw that counter right hook that he likes to throw, and if the shoulder hasn't bothered him too much, it'll be interesting to see if he can get the jab going, because if he becomes one-handed, that could be a big problem for him here, especially against a pretty crafty fighter like Pedraza. But I think, assuming Lomachenko's healthy, assuming the shoulder isn't an issue, assuming he's back to the form he was prior to the Linares fight, I think Lomachenko should probably win this fight, maybe by stoppage or a wide decision. But an upset wouldn't surprise me based on the points that I've just mentioned, based on the shoulder injury and whatnot, and based on the layoff. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Pedraza was to score an upset. You know, Lomachenko has lost before, and this is boxing after all, you never know. But I think the likelihood is Lomachenko will probably win this fight by stoppage or a late decision. So let me know what you guys think about this one, and I'm excited to see Lomachenko in the ring, man. He's one of my favourite fighters right now. He's just, every time he's in the ring, it's guaranteed excitement. You're going to get a high level of skill, but also a high level of risk involved. He takes a lot of risks in the ring, Lomachenko. That's one of the reasons I enjoy watching him so much. So yeah, he's just pure entertainment. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching.